Win big in 2024 with Team Sync from RotoBaller. Import your fantasy teams and sync your leagues. Get customized tools and tailored advice for your specific rosters and scoring settings, including live recommendations from the Live Draft Assistant, Free Agent Finder, and Lineup Optimizer. Sync an unlimited amount of NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL fantasy teams from all of the major fantasy platforms. Get a discount for any premium pass using my promo code KNUCKLER. Just visit rotoballer.com/radio and start rotoballing like a boss. This podcast is also brought to you by Parlay Play Fantasy Sports. Use my referral code RotoBrady. Get that sweet, sweet deposit bonus. They got free contests, paid contests coming to a state near you. They're slashing lines, giving out boosts and bonuses all damn day long. Check it out. It's a fun platform. And what is up, everybody? This is Brady Grove bringing you episode 136 of RotoBaller's official MMA podcast, Tap That. And we've got UFC Vegas 92 this weekend.
Break out the red panties.
Going down Saturday at 4 p.m. That means I'll be in the RotoBaller MMA Discord from 2 to 3 p.m. and onward throughout the card. Come join us. Let's talk about the UFC Fight Night, what you're doing for it in DFS and sports betting. Follow me on Twitter at RotoBrady. That's where I make picks for all major MMA promotions, regional UFC Fight Pass promotions, major boxing events, combat sports on Twitter at RotoBrady. And it's a big week in MMA. We got Bellator Champion Series, LFA 184, Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk, and a bunch of Fight Pass events. Road to UFC. It's a big week. So follow me on Twitter at RotoBrady and follow the podcast. Like, subscribe, leave favorable comments and reviews. Tell your friends at Tap That MMA Podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. We're entering week 8 of the UFL season, so check out my spring football gambling content. Fun stuff coming from the MMA team at RotoBaller and from this brand right here, Tap That. We got 12 fights this weekend. Okay, for UFC Vegas 92. Starting off with a strawweight matchup between Emily Ducote and Vanessa Demopoulos. Bantamweight, Alatanga Lee against Clayton Rodriguez. Strawweight, Ariana Carnelosi against Pierre Rodriguez, 9-1 as a pro. Middleweight, Warley Alves against Abus Magomedov. Tamiris Vidal and Melissa Gatto at bantamweight. Umar Sy, 9-0 as a pro out of France against Tuco Tokas, 10-3 out of the United Kingdom. Tom Nolan, 6-1 lightweight against Victor Martinez. Angela Hill, the seasoned veteran of the division, one of the the few of those numbers still around, against Luana Pinheiro. Bantamweight, Adrian Yanez, ranked 24th in the world according to Tapology, taking on Vinicius Salvador, currently ranked 49th at flyweight. Welterweight, Ramiz Brahimaj against Thimba Garimbo. The co-main event is also a welterweight matchup. That's between Chaos Williams and Carlston Harris. Very intriguing matchup. And then the main event, at featherweight, Edson Barbosa, coming off that crazy comeback win against Sadiq Youssef last time out in a 5-round main event against 13-0-1 Lerone Murphy.
Break out the red panties.
I think it's going to be a fun card. Let's get into it. First up, we got Vanessa Demopoulos and Emily Ducote. All right, Ducote, the minus 380 favorite. Vanessa Demopoulos, the plus 300 underdog. Start with Ducote. Winner of 2 out of 4 in the UFC. Wins against Ashley Yoder and Jessica Panay. She landed a combined 233 strikes in those two fights. She landed 112 in her unanimous decision loss to Lupi Godinez. And another loss to Angela Hill, who outstruck her 182-71. All 4 of her UFC fights have gone the distance. Vanessa Demopoulos, 6 years older, nicknamed the Lil Monster. She, dating back to January of 2022, has actually won 4 of her last 5 fights, with the only loss being a unanimous decision loss to Karolina Kowalkiewicz May of last year. She's coming off... Okay, and let's talk about this. She's coming off that win against Kanako Murata. Gave up 10 minutes of control time, got taken down 5 times to 0. Got outstruck, technically, outlanded 34-31. You're talking damage. Look, this one was close, but in this fight, when you had money on Murata, it was so frustrating to lose because how much, it is a question of control versus damage. But Kanaka, people need to remember still that, you actually need to weigh damage. The lack of damage done by either party is not necessarily a point against, but, if you are on the bottom and getting controlled by the person from the top, you are less effective. That is still, control time still has to be some sort of factor. Maybe not the most important factor, but it still has to be a factor. Anyway, that was one where it would be very easy to question for Vanessa Demopoulos whether, she was the rightful winner of that fight.
But I'm not impressed by your performance, and I look forward to...
But it's been a different level of opponent. Ducote, this is the fear, is Vanessa Demopoulos. She has 3 takedowns in her UFC career. She's more dangerous, kind of off her back type of stuff. She's a good, savvy kind of grappler. But Ducote, I don't think she really cares if it goes there. There's only been one person to take down Emily Ducote, is Lupi Godinez, once. So I think I have to go Ducote here to win 80 to 85 of these out of 100. I think it comes by unanimous decision. I think she lands triple-digit strikes. Ducote by decision is minus 200. She's going to be popular this week in DFS. I don't blame people at all. Next up, Clayton Rodriguez against Ali Alatang. Alatang, the plus 124 underdog. Clayton Rodriguez, the minus 148 favorite. Let's start with Alatang Ali. All right. Winner of 2 of his last 3. Knocked out Kevin Kroom. Got a unanimous decision over Chad Anhaliger. That's a solid win. I will give him that. Has a draw with Gustavo Lopez and what was, okay, whatever. Lost to Casey Kenny, beat Dana Batcherell and Ryan Benoit. Coming off a loss to Chris Gutierrez by unanimous decision. Gutierrez outstruck him 110-38. Clayton Rodriguez, actually 4 years younger. Clayton Rodriguez, only born in 1995. Winner at 2 out of 4 at the UFC level, counting the Contender Series. Losses to Farid Basharat by a very early arm triangle and split decision against CJ Vergara. The win was against Shannon Ross by first-round knockout. I don't know about this one. I've seen a lot of information to say that people like Clayton Rodriguez, and I think that he has fought a higher level of competition. Alatang Ali has been kind of outclassed by the better fighters that he's actually taken on. I just don't against CJ Vergara too. Vergara's been good. This is a really tough one to call, especially with how quickly Farid Basharat finished that fight against Rodriguez. I don't know. I think if you're going Alatang Ali, I don't know. I think you probably go by decision. I think that plus 124, that's maybe just a little too low. I think Clayton has just fought better fighters, and Ali Alatang has gotten those chances but has not come through on them. So I don't know. Clayton Rodriguez minus 148. I think he probably wins 60 of these fights out of 100, maybe 65. By TKO knockout is plus 450. I think that's a very reasonable prop. But I do think that this fight has some big question marks and some questions that will be answered, considering the fact that I question the comparison of competition. I'm excited to see who comes out on the upper end of this. Next up, we got a women's strawweight matchup between Piera Rodriguez and Ariana Carnelossi. Carnelossi, the plus 180 underdog. Piera Rodriguez, the minus 218 favorite. Well, let's start then with Ariana Carnelossi. Winner of 2 out of 4 at the UFC level. Losses to Angela Hill by second-round knockout. And coming off a unanimous decision loss to Lupi Godinez, she got outstruck 46-9 and taken down 8 times. wins both inside the distance, a second-round knockout against Na Liang, and a third-round rear naked choke against Estela Nunes. Interesting wins and losses there. Pierre Rodriguez, 3-1 in the UFC, counting the Contender Series. Unanimous decision wins both against Kay Hansen and Sam Hughes, coming off a loss by round 2 armbar to Jillian Robertson. You know, Pierre, and you look at the win over Sam Hughes should mean more, but Sam Hughes has just, and Kay Hansen, they're people who have had to fight tough people, but have never, they rarely come out on top. Jillian Robertson, if Pierre was, Jillian Robertson's good too, inconsistent, but I don't know. In this one, when your losses to Lupe Godinez, what's Estela Nunes? She's lost all 4 too. You know, on that, maybe I do have to opt for Pierre Rodriguez. The Jillian Robertson loss, that could happen to a lot of people. I think Pierre Rodriguez is a little bit too well-rounded, actually, for Ariana Carnelosi, now that I think about it. I think that based on that, Pierre Rodriguez probably wins this fight like 65, 70 times out of 100. So like plus 180 on Carnelosi isn't horrible. Rodriguez, maybe that's a little wide at minus 218. And this line actually, it started off Carnelosi as plus 100. So that has moved tremendously. I would go Pierre by decision plus 100. There we go. Hit it. Next up, we got a middleweight matchup between Abus Magomedov and Warley Alves. Alves the plus 220 underdog. Abus the minus 270 favorite. Abus. The last 2 fights. I mean, this is tough, right? Because he gets a first-round knockout against Dustin Stoltzfus in his UFC debut. He's 25-6-1 as a pro, 78-inch reach. He's a tall dude. He has knockout power, consistently throughout his professional career. And how do you judge this guy too hard when, he takes a loss to Cal Borello? Well, Cal, thoroughly worked him in November of 2023. Gets knocked out in the second round against Sean Strickland. After he had landed some really good shots in that first round, it was just clear that it needed to be the first round or bust for Abus Magomedov. And that is not what happened. Oh, by the way, I just remembered now that I said or bust. What a week last week with Rebelis Despaigne and, it was the 2 highest priced DFS options last week, both lost. And it was just absolutely killer. One of them being Rebelis. And I forgot, I kept calling him a judoka last week. I know it's Taekwondo that Rebelis is into. But my God, what a week to go super chalky in any platform. Jesus. And I deserve this.
But I'm not impressed by your performance, and I look forward to...
And it was Matus Rebecki. Just remembered. That's who it was. Anyway, Abus Magomedov did have to take on, a guy who's the former champion at middleweight, recent, and Cal Borello, a guy who's probably one of the fastest rising prospects at the weight class and is a top 15 guy. Warley Alves, loser of 4 of his last 5. He got he got a knockout against Munir Lazez, January of 2021. After, a period of inactivity after his fight with Jeremiah Wells, where he got knocked out in the second round, Alves has lost 3 in a row now. To Wells, Nicholas Dalby by split decision, where he got outstruck 119-66, and Ikram Aliskerov by first round knockout. So, and he's been finished a lot. He gets a good amount of finishes. This is the guy that's been in the UFC since May of 2014, and has fought a lot. Started off in the UFC with wins over Nordine Talib, Alan Jubin, and Colby Covington. That's how long Warley Alves has been around. You know what? Honestly, I feel like the public sentiment is very much against Abus right now, and it's crazy because it actually went from Abus minus 185 to Abus minus 283. I know there's love on Warley Alves this week. And Abus, has given me every reason not to do this. But this last time, I actually think Abus, Warley Alves plus 220 is not a bad number at all. Because I think Abus probably wins this fight 70 times out of 100. I need to give him at least a little bit of a benefit of the doubt for the opponents that he had to fight, starting off in the UFC. But I think Magomedov by TKO knockout minus 110, I think that's the best number you're going to get in the entire fight. That's where I go with that. Worley Alves plus 220, not horrible. I think a boost because of that limited method of victory. Maybe not the top, DFS option concerning what his price is going to be, but Worley Alves could be a, really well-priced option if you're trying to budget for more expensive fighters this weekend. Next up, we got a women's bantamweight matchup between Tamiris Vidal and Melissa Gatto. Melissa Gatto, the minus 340 favorite. Vidal, the plus 270 underdog. Let's start out with Vidal. Winner of her UFC debut by first-round knockout against Ramona Pascual. Then she just lost to Montserrat Rendon by split decision September of last year, getting outstruck 69-60, taken down 3 times to 0. Born in 1998, Melissa Gatto born in 1996, who will have the 1-inch reach advantage. Gatto coming off 2 straight losses, both by decision to Tracy Cortez in what was a very close fight. And against Ariana De Silva, who she outstruck 85-66, she did get taken down once, but lost that one by split decision July of last year. She had 2 wins in the UFC, both by knockout against Victoria Leonardo and Sijara Eubanks back in 2021. I think we opt here for Gatto by TKO knockout. I think that we know more about Melissa Gatto. Tamiris Vidal, all I know is right now I'm not, super impressed. And Melissa Gatto, we did get that for a bit. And it's only, after 2 very close decision losses to solid fighters that, now that we start to question that. But there's a reason she's a heavy favorite here. I got to go Melissa Gatto by TKO knockout. That's plus 500. Hit it. And then, in DFS, that's reasonable. This line has gone from minus 395, so it's actually gone down for Melissa Gatto. And people betting on Vidal. Maybe after this, I'm saying the same things about Tamiris Vidal, but I think we just have a much better body of history for Melissa Gatto to go on and to tell us that, I think that no matter who is in there up to a certain level, that she's going to have a chance to win it. And Tamiris Vidal, I definitely can't say that yet. Next up, we got a light heavyweight matchup between Umar Sy and Tuco Tokas. Tuco Tokas. Hey, Brady.
But I'm not impressed by your performance, and I look forward to...
Tuco Tokos. Tokos is the plus 350 underdog. Umar Sy, the minus 455 favorite. Let's start with Tuco. 10-3 as a professional. 33 years old. Fight style is Valley Tudo. Love to see it. And what was it here? So he's been in some solid organizations for sure. Has a couple losses in Bellator to Ty Guerter and Kevin Fryer. Has been in Fury FC for a handful of fights. He's actually won 6 of his last 7 fights. His only loss in that time was a first-round knockout to Mingyang Zhang back in June of 2022 at Road to UFC. But since then, a win in Shudo, Brazil by unanimous decision, and most recently a first-round victory by arm injury to Myron Dennis. Umar Sy, on the other hand, 9-0 as a pro, 28 years old. This guy has fought at heavyweight. He's got a reach of 84 inches. 4 wins by knockout, 3 by submission, 2 by decision. This is going to be hard, but Tuco...
Nick, one comment, man. One comment.
No, don't be scared, homie.
This is a guy that it's very easy to gas up. Sy. Has been in Octagon with a K. Has been in Aries FC. 2 wins in KSW. And is coming off a KOF first round TKO victory back in June of 2023. He's had 4 straight fights canceled. He's been injured at least once, I think, in that stretch. Yeah, I think just once. He just had some bad luck with some opponents pulling out. But look, Tuco, I think that this is a fight where you don't make it to the judges' scorecards. When you see a prospect like Sai, who's won in 3 really solid European organizations, beating guys with good records, it doesn't appear to be smoke and mirrors. This guy is good, and it's going to be worth watching. I think Umar Sai wins this fight. By the way, I think Melissa Gatto wins that fight like 75 to 80 times out of 100. Got to give that number. But Sai, I think, probably wins this fight like 85 times out of 100. Minus 455, that's a big number. It started off at minus 500, so money is actually coming on Tuco. But I would just say, Sai inside the distance, which for some reason they don't have a number out for right now. Sai inside the distance, Sai by TKO knockout. I think those are both reasonable. And at the expense of making another Robellas-like mistake, Sai is going to be worth budgeting for in DFS this week. I very much believe. Next up, lightweight, Tom Nolan and Victor Martinez. Martinez, the plus 360 underdog. Tom Nolan, the minus 470 favorite. Bunch of heavy dogs out this weekend.
Nick, one comment, man. One comment.
Come on, don't be scared, homie. Come on.
So let's start off with Victor Martinez. Okay, you went on the Contender Series. You land 144 strikes against Jacob Rosales, get a unanimous decision. All is well. But in your real UFC debut, you get finished by Jordan Leavitt in the first round by knockout. Not exactly what we're used to seeing. Martinez, before he came in through the Contender Series, was in Fury FC, Combate, solid organizations. But, his time in the UFC, his Contender Series fight was great. He did still get a lot of shots landed against him. But Jordan Leavitt, that's a fight that, I forget I don't know what the odds were in that fight. I guess I could look it up. Jordan Leavitt has only 2 wins in his career by knockout. The fight was almost pick'em. And so that was kind of a disappointing result for him. Then we got Tom Nolan, 6-1 as a pro. 24 years old, fighting out of Toowoomba, Queensland, Australia. That was where he was born. Fighting out of Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. 4 wins by knockout, 2 by decision. He is coming off a loss in his UFC debut to Nicholas Mata. First round knockout. He won on the Contender Series by first round knockout against Bogdan Grad. This guy was in Eternal MMA for pretty much his entire professional career after being in XFC for his pro debut. But really good amateur record too. He always starts off both in amateur and pro, going the distance with guys with very limited professional experience, and then putting away his next 7 opponents or whatever it is. So I don't know. Nicholas Mata, I believe, pulled off a pretty sizable upset in that one. He was the plus 275 underdog. But, I think that was also prescriptive of the fact that, you had to fight Jim Miller and Manuel Torres. Maybe the win against Cameron Van Camp and the fashion that he did it was a little bit more impressive than we gave credit for at the time. Tom Nolan against Victor Martinez, maybe it shouldn't be this wide of a line. But, we already made this mistake with Tom Nolan once. We're going to make it again? Maybe. Maybe just not in the same way. Tom Nolan, I think he wins this fight 80 to 85 times out of 100. It's a fight that he should win, and Nicholas Mata very well could have been a wake-up call. I just don't think Victor Martinez, based on the way he lost to Jordan Leavitt, is going to hang around this level for too long unless something changes. So give me Tom Nolan by knockout, minus 225. That's, I think, the best number that you can get for just a method of victory. As far as, maybe a little bit more worthwhile. Nolan in round 1, that's plus 100. I don't think that's too bad. Hit him. Tom Nolan's going to be popular in DFS this week. I don't think you need to do that, though. I think that there's a little bit more risk there to where it might not be worth that price. Next up, we got a women's strawweight matchup between Angela Hill and Luana Pinheiro. Angela Hill is the minus 142 favorite. Pinheiro is the plus 120 underdog. Pinheiro, actually winner of 4 of her last 5. She's just coming off of a loss, including wins against Ronda Marcos, Sam Hughes, and Michelle Waterson-Gomez. Now, it was a DQ victory against Ronda Marcos, but it was a fight she was winning. 2 of those were in 2021, and it was a split decision against the karate hottie Michelle Waterson-Gomez. She did get outstruck to 61-44. I remember, I think I maybe took Waterson in that one. I was upset at that result, but I probably would have been upset anyway, no matter what. And then she got finished in the 3rd round last time out against Amanda Ribas, November of last year. Angela Hill, 7 years older than Luana Pinheiro. She will have a 2-inch reach advantage. And look out, okay? Because after a 3-fight losing streak after her win against Ashley Yoder, and this Angela Hill is a fighter that took such great advantage of the uptick in volume of cards and the availability that there was, fighting 4 times in 2020, 3 times in 2021, 3 times in 2022, and twice in 2023. Winner of 3 of her last 4. Against Lupi Godinez by unanimous decision. Emily Ducote, she landed a combined 267 strikes in those 2 fights, and then lands 5 takedowns and 76 strikes in a unanimous decision win against Denise Gomez. The loss in that stretch of time was to Mackenzie Dern, who outstruck her 126-66, and got her down 3 times. That's important. So, Luana Pinheiro. I think that Angela Hill can get off a similar volume against Luana Pinheiro that Michelle Waterson-Gomez was, maybe even a little bit better, but I think those strikes are a little bit more meaningful. That's why when Michelle Waterson-Gomez fought Angela Hill, just the volume and the pressure was the key, because Michelle does so many touch strikes or lesser impact, lesser power strikes. But I think Angela Hill's style is going to be, even more of a problem for Luana than Michelle's was. And I think that she outstrikes her, prevents being down on her back for too long because her kickboxing is going to be good enough to keep Luana Pinheiro at bay. I think that Angela Hill probably wins this fight like 55 to 60 times out of 100. So I like minus 142. The real thing is Angela Hill by decision makes the most sense. Minus 105. I think this fight to go the distance is minus 360. So Pinheiro by decision plus 200 isn't too bad either. But I love watching Angela Hill, and she's always a fighter that when the line is close, and it almost always is, or if she's a big underdog, whatever the case may be, she's someone that you just got to pay attention to. Next up, and by the way, that Angela Hill bet on decision, hit it. Next up, we got a bantamweight matchup between Adrian Yanez and Vinicius Salvador. Let's start with Adrian Yanez, right, who is the minus 395 favorite, another heavy favorite, against Vinicius Salvador, the plus 310 underdog. Yanez has lost 2 in a row. Got knocked out both times. Granted, it was to Rob Font and Jonathan Martinez. 2 guys that have looked good over that stretch of time. Or, Rob Font, for the guys that he's had to fight. And fought so many of the top contenders at bantamweight. And, landed, 200 strikes and still somehow lost. Something crazy like that. But Yanez started off 6-0 in the UFC. 5 of those wins were by knockout. Only 1 split decision. That was against Davey Grant, outstriking him 198. Knockouts over Tony Kelly, Randy Costa, Gustavo Lopez, Victor Rodriguez, and Brady Huang. Salvador, born in 1996. They each have a 70-inch reach. Won on the Contender Series, beating Shannon Ross, outstriking him 79-67 with 3 knockdowns, ultimately leading to a second-round knockout. 2 straight unanimous decision losses, though, to CJ Vergara and Victor Altamirano. 2 fights that he lost by kind of a narrow margin. He landed it, close to his opponent's amount of strikes, but he got outlanded and he got out MMA'd against Victor Altamirano and CJ Vergara. Those are 2 solid fighters for sure. But Yanez, has come off an even tougher stretch. And he got finished in both of those. Granted, I don't know. I think that this is one where we probably go I think Yanez probably wins this fight 80 times out of 100, maybe 85. It's hard to tell with Salvador, but we know that we've seen Adrian Yanez look very impressive. Just because he can't beat, 2 top 10, top 15 guys doesn't mean that we have to fade him moving forward, even though it's 2 straight losses. We have a great body of work from him. Yanez by TKO knockout, -115, and, maybe worth a look in DFS for sure, even though he's going to be at a high price. Hit it all over the board. And then, I don't know. If you're going Salvador, I don't think you need to necessarily pick a method of victory because I don't think he knocks Adrian Yanez out. And I think it's going to be hard for him to win by unanimous decision over the course of 3 rounds or by any decision over the course of 3 rounds. If you like Salvador, I think you just go moneyline plus 310. Next up, we got a welterweight matchup between Thimba Garimba and Ramiz Brahimaj. Brahimaj is the plus 124 underdog. Garimba the minus 148 favorite. And let's go ahead. Let's start with Ramiz. Winner at 2 out of 4 of the UFC level. He got finished by Max Griffin in his debut and lost a unanimous decision to Court McGee January of 2022. But his 2 wins, both by first round rear naked choke against Sasha Paletnikov and Michael Gilmore, formerly of The Ultimate Fighter. Wait, let me make sure on that. Yep, formerly of The Ultimate Fighter, Michael Gilmore. That's what Brahimaj has done. Thimba Garimbo, winner of 2 in a row. Unanimous decision against Takashi Sato by a kind of narrow margin. The first round knockout against Pete Rodriguez, whose only win is against Mike Jackson in the UFC by first round knockout. Granted, his other opponent was Jack Della Maddalena. This is a tough one to call, and this is appropriately handicapped, I think. It's fair to have Thimba as the favorite, considering he's coming off 2 straight wins. His loss was in his UFC debut against A.J. Fletcher by a second-round guillotine. A.J. Fletcher, who has not done a ton of winning in the UFC, granted, fights against Brian Battle, Angel Losa, and Matthew Semelsberger. Ramiz, I don't know. I don't know about Ramiz's wins. Michael Gilmore, February 2022. It made quick work of him, but Michael Gilmore was a late replacement on The Ultimate Fighter. I think that came in because of injury. And it was great to see that local Las Vegas guy, achieve his dream and all, but it just was too much for him. That's not the point. That's not the point. The point is, can I trust Ramiz's wins? I can at least trust that Thimba is on a 2-fight winning streak, coming off a knockout. Takashi Sato certainly hasn't done a lot of winning in the UFC. This is a very tough one to call. I don't know. I guess I got to go Thimba. Ramiz Brahimaj, I'm just a little less impressed with what he's done, I guess. I see how you lose to Court McGee, and I see how you lose to Max Griffin. The wins just aren't that impressive. I really question the opponent more so, I think, against Ramiz's opponents. I just question a little bit more somehow. Both are incredibly suspect, but we'll see. I don't know. Thimba by decision, or you just don't even pick a method of victory in this one. This is the one I feel the least good about so far, trying to predict an outcome. I just don't know on these 2. So I don't know. I think Thimba maybe wins this fight 55 times out of 100. Minus 148. All right, I'm fine with that if you like him. I'm fine with plus 24 if you like Ramiz Brahimaj. The movement on this one, Brahimaj started off at plus 205, and people were hammering it down to plus 121 on some places. So I think plus 200 was crazy, but now I think this is a much more reasonable number to get Garimbo at. Next up, and I don't like either of them in DFS. Hell with that. I don't need to, $15 or $16 and $14 options when I think it's a flip of a coin, and we'll find out. And I'll still have questions about either of these guys. In their next fight, I'll say, well, what did that last win mean for whoever wins this one? That was a tough one. And why is it above the Yanez fight? That didn't make a ton of sense. But we are to the co-main event of the evening. This, too, is a welterweight matchup between Chaos Williams and Carlston Harris. Chaos Williams. Where's the rest of the UFC? What the hell? Hold on. I'm going to refresh. They not have it? Okay, I am not seeing odds on on UFC and MMA odds. Okay, I found the odds for the co-main event on DraftKings. Chaos Williams, the minus 122 favorite. Carlston Harris, the plus 102 underdog. Let's start with some chaos. Born in 1994 with a 77-inch reach. He's nicknamed the Ox Fighter. I think your nickname is Chaos, bro. When your name is Chaos, anything that comes, when, I know it's not like his name, but when it's what you go by, that's your name. Any nickname kind of takes the wind out of the sails. Chaos, the Ox Fighter Williams. I'm still stuck on the word Chaos. Anyway, winner of 3 of his last 4. Three of his first 4 UFC wins were by first round or by knockout. 2 of the first were in the first round against Alex Morono and Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Took a loss to Michelle Pereira, and Randy Brown is his only other loss, and they were both on the judges' scorecards, and Chaos Williams outstruck Michelle Pereira. He knocked down Randy Brown. The 3 out of 4 fights that he's won, it's almost a greater concern to me, right? Like Smellsberger, he outstrikes him 91-64, fine. But that was back in June of 2021. Miguel Baeza, he outstruck him 49-31, got a 3rd round knockout. Baeza was not good, in the UFC after his 4-fight winning streak to start off. He dropped a really bad series of 3 fights. And now he's coming off this win against Rolando Bedoya. Bedoya, who has lost both his fights in the UFC, including one to Kenan Song, that's the other one. He outstruck Chaos 149-130, and it went to the judges' scorecards. I don't like that at all for Chaos. I would love it if he knocked out, Bedoya, finished Baeza early. His 2 losses are to good fighters, and it was pretty close. He kept it close. These last couple of wins, though, I'm not in love with. Carlston Harris. On the other hand, I do like what Carlston Harris has been up to. My God, you go back to September 21, gets a first-round knockout over Imba Kasangane. That guy went on to have a pretty good run in PFL, you may have heard. His only UFC loss is a first-round knockout against Shavkat Rakhmonov. Now he's on a 2-fight winning streak against Jared Gooden and Jeremiah Wells. Now, Carlston Harris now has 2 Anaconda choke submission victories. I like those last 2 wins a lot. They were definitive against recognizable opponents. The only loss is to the guy that many have crowned the future welterweight champion of the UFC. Chaos, I just have more questions about. He's lost the 2 really close fights that he was in. That's a problem because it could end up close with Carlston Harris. But Carlston Harris has so many more ways to win this fight. You're telling me I can get him at plus 102? I think Carlston Harris wins this fight 55 to 60 times out of 100. Hit it! I don't need a method of victory here. I think if you're going, with Chaos Williams, I think, let's see, winning method here. Chaos. By knockout, plus 130. By decision, that's going to be a tough one for him where he's going to have to stay off the ground and probably win the volume striking battle or get a knockdown. That's plus 550, not horrible. Harris is pretty evenly spread. Plus 350 by decision, plus 450 by submission, plus 550 by knockout. Whatever. I don't think you need to do that. Plus 102 is perfectly fine there. That's one of the best bargains I think you're getting this weekend. And now, we are to the main event of the evening.
Break out the red panties.
And it is a main event featherweight matchup between the guys ranked number 14 and number 16 in the world at 145 pounds, respectively, by Tapology.com. Edson Barboza and Lerone Murphy. Let's see, I got to go back to MMA. Now I'm on Indoor Football League odds. Take San Antonio's over, by the way. Their offense is great and their defense sucks. There we go. MMA. Main event. Edson Barboza is the plus 130 underdog. Lerone Murphy, the minus 155 favorite. On that, let's start off with Lerone Murphy of the Queen's Country. Winner of 5 in a row after a split draw against Zubaira Tukhugov in his UFC debut that came all the way back in September of 2019. The activity level, since his UFC debut has been questionable for sure, but now he fought twice last year. He hasn't fought since July, but it was twice last year. I question, he knocks out Ricardo Ramos. That's solid. Beats Douglas Silva de Andrade in a, conclusive yet not that wide of a margin victory. Solid. You knock out Makwan Amirkhani. Okay, I would damn well hope so, but you get taken down 5 times. It ends in the second round and you only land 4 strikes. How could that possibly work? But you win it, so great. Split decision victory against Gabriel Santos. He also took him down 5 times. But then, what it was his best performance to date, probably, except for Ricardo Ramos, his best performance of late, a unanimous decision victory against Josh Kulabau. He outstruck him 59-23, 3 takedowns, 1 knockdown. Well-bodied performance from Murphy in that one. He was born in 1991. Edson Barboza, 5 years older. He will have a 2-inch reach advantage. And this is Edson Barboza, folks. All right, he had to take Makwan Amirkhani to a unanimous decision in October of 2020. But this is the thing. And right after that, too, he knocks out Shane Burgos, Hurricane Shane, outstriking him 98-80. Every time this guy goes on a 2 or 3 fight losing streak, he bounces back. But, since December of 2017, there wasn't a whole lot of, long-term bouncing back. I mean, 2016 to 17, 3-fight winning streak against Anthony Pettis, Gilbert Melendez, and Beneil Dariush. That's Beneil Dariush, the former Strikeforce lightweight champion and the former WEC and UFC lightweight champion. Wins over Paul Felder and Bobby Green and Evan Dunham. Terry Edom, Ross Pearson, Dana Hooker. Edson Barboza, awesome. Winner of 4 of his last 6. Those 2 losses in a row came to Giga Chikadze by 3rd-round knockout in another main event, August of 2021. Then a unanimous decision loss to Bryce Mitchell, who held Edson to 16 strikes and got 4 takedowns. Now, I don't think Lerone Murphy is going to, do what he did to Kulabau and significantly outstrike Edson and take him down multiple times. I think this is going to be a close fight. I think that this is very close to Edson Barboza fighting Sadiq Youssef. Now, that scares me. I question Lerone Murphy's wins. And you see nothing but killers in the competition for Edson Barboza, who knocked out Billy Quarantillo, too, in the first round April of last year. That was the other win in this 2-fight winning streak. Can he make it 3? Because he had to come back and get that. Sadiq Youssef went with crazy work. He had to go to work on the body so consistently, and he couldn't turn the switch off. He couldn't turn the switch off after that first round when he got hurt so bad that the fight was millimeters away from getting finished. To come back the way he did and thoroughly work Sadiq Youssef the rest of the fight, he still got outstruck 178 to 164. He got 3 takedowns, but it felt like a pipe dream at first if you had money on Edson Barboza, but then it slowly became apparent that he was way better positioned to win the fight over the course of 5 rounds. That could very well be a difference here. This fight is probably, there's a very good chance this fight goes into the championship rounds, where Edson is going to be better versed to get those 2 rounds. That could make a big difference. You see nothing but killers for Edson Barboza. The best win for Lerone Murphy is either Culibao, Silva de Andrade, or Ricardo Ramos. Edson Barboza has at least 1 win, better than all of those, in his last fight than Lerone Murphy has, his entire UFC run. Even the guys that he's lost to, you see why Bryce Mitchell's a bad stylistic matchup for Edson Barboza. So you're telling me that I'm getting Edson Barboza plus 130? This isn't 50-50, baby. This is Edson Barboza takes 55, 60, maybe even 65 of these out of 100. You're telling me I can get him plus 130? Hit it. And how? How will it be done? And by the way, I think if you go Lerone Murphy, I don't think he's knocking out Edson Barboza. I think if Sadiq Youssef didn't, then I can't picture a way that it ends up being Lerone Murphy. So, by decision makes sense to me. For Edson, I think plus 130 is just a fantastic number that I don't really think you have to mess with. But, Lerone Murphy, I don't know. If you're going Edson Barboza, I don't know, probably by decision. Probably. I think maybe, I don't know. There we go. Don't feel the need to go with a method of victory for Edson Barboza. And if you're telling me that guy is going to be below $18, and it looks like he will be if he's plus 130, absolutely hit him in DFS. But this is going to be a good card. I know the main event is underwhelming, but there's a lot of very intriguing matchups, a lot of heavy favorites, and if we just see one massive upset, that'd be very interesting. So, thank you for listening to episode 136 of RotoBaller's official MMA podcast. Tap that. Looking forward to UFC Vegas 92 this weekend.
Break out the red panties.
Again, follow me on Twitter at RotoBrady. It's a big week in MMA. Find all my picks for major MMA, boxing, combat sports events, regional, and UFC Fight Pass promotions on Twitter at RotoBrady. Follow the podcast at Tap That MMA Podcast. Like, subscribe, leave favorable comments and reviews. Share it. Tell your friends. Spread the word at Tap That MMA Podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. Come out to the RotoBaller MMA Discord on Saturday. Let's talk about this card. We got some fun interlude episodes from the BYB Bare Knuckle Boxing World coming up. The spring football season is winding to a close for the regular season, nearing the postseason. Thanks for listening and tuning in. Have yourselves a great weekend, and peace.